everybody. How is it going?
This is Macaw Podcast Universe, where
It is the. You always say Macaw. It's the podcast. The Macaw Podcast Universe.
We we exist to prove people wrong when they say
sequels are never better than the originals. And today we're
probably doing because of what they talk about, the sequel of all sequels.
Yeah, we're covering a movie that is about whether sequels can be better than the originals.
And there's an argument in the movie that sequels are never better.
Yeah, and we've covered several of the movies they talked about.
Yeah.
So, hey, we're only a little over a week from Halloween. Things are really heating up. And we're covering Wes Craven's Scream.
Indeed.
Now, last week, we did our first episode on Scream, and it was our longest episode to date. Yeah,
we rambled hard.
No, stop downplaying it. It was a great episode. But we'll see how far we get on this one. And a quick warning, if you're listening now, there's construction going on beside us. I don't think it's going to interfere, but it may. So just be aware of that, because we strive on having good quality recordings. So tell me about the first time you saw this movie, Jordan.
This movie I saw, it was a Blockbuster rent. In the last episode.
How appropriate.
I know. And the last episode talked about how my sister and I rented, I think at the time, all three of them to watch, because I don't think the fourth one was out yet. By the time,
I feel like the fourth one comes out in 2011, I think.
Yeah, so this is before that.
2010.
And I think, from my memory, it's the Scream 2, where that summer we had just gotten a puppy.
Uh-huh.
And it was such a great summer because of the puppy. But it was like, we're also watching Scream. And today we're watching Scream 2. And we got so freaked out. I'm assuming it was the scene with Courtney Cox.
In the recording studio?
Yeah.
That seems
the tension
scary.
is so high that I think we were like, let's go take the puppy outside. And we were all like not admitting we were afraid.
Well, speaking of like scary scenes in the movie, apparently on the script, I don't know which scene it was, but there was just a page or so where Kevin Williamson, who also wrote this movie and wrote Scream, he just wrote, Wes Craven makes scenes scary.
What?
Because he's like, by that time he'd worked with him, and he's like, okay, this scene just needs to be scary, and he can do it, which is kind of funny.
That is pretty interesting.
Well, we're going to get into some very interesting facts about the screenplay on this movie. But is that all you wanted to say about your first experience? Yeah. And then, so the first time I saw it was last year, around this same time, when we went through and watched all the Scream movies. And I was really excited to watch this movie because it's referenced in a Patrick Willems video about movies within movies. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of like, the what he had described as that, when I saw his video, I hadn't seen any Scream movies, but what he was describing as what happens in this movie, I thought, whoa, this seems really wild.
And at the time you saw that, you hadn't seen any of them.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, it's just that slasher movie series.
I
Not
had
that you thought it was bad,
so little knowledge of what Scream was until I finally watched it.
What I mean is you didn't know it was a commentary.
Yeah.
Or was meta.
No, I didn't. Next week, we're going to talk about my first experience with Scream, which you probably forgot about.
Yeah.
But I can't talk about it yet because it's the next movie.
Yeah. I'm
pretty sure it's not the fourth one. No, it's the next one.
Was there a Culkin in it?
No, I don't think so.
It was the third one.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll get into it next week, Micah. So I was excited to see it. Then we watched it, and I really enjoyed it. And then we watched it last night, and I also really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. There's just something so fun about the movie. Like, so if you didn't watch the movie, or you're just refreshing, this movie opens with a movie called Stab premiering that is the events of Scream. Mm-hmm. From a book that Gale Weathers wrote. I mean, already it's kind of like, how do you even explain this?
I know.
But when it happens, it's just like, this is so cool that they kind of had the audacity to do this.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet. We're probably going to spend most of our episode talking about that part of the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my experience. I really liked it. And that's it.
That's all you'll say on the matter.
That's it. Yeah. But let's get into how the movie was made. Directed by Wes Craven. Screenplay by Kevin Williamson. Cinematography is by Peter Deming, who was the guy who finished
Got it.
Scream after there was the blurry footage debacle. Music is by Marco Beltrami again, or Marco Beltrami. The budget of this movie is about $9 million higher than the last one. It's $24 million.
Okay.
Domestically, it makes $101 million. And then worldwide, it makes $172 million.
Yikes.
And here is what I thought was wild. Like, so wild to me. Do you know when this movie came out?
1997.
It came out in 1997. And when did the last movie come out?
1996.
So this came out less than a calendar year after Scream 1.
And there was no making Scream 1 and thinking, oh, and then we're making the sequel right after it.
Well, maybe.
Okay.
But so this movie comes out December 12th, 1997. So it's like 1 week before it would have been a year since Scream came out. But it is wild because I always just assume when a sequel comes out that it's been a few years, and I had never looked that up until today.
I didn't realize that either. And
it's kind of like, whoa. Especially a movie that's commenting on sequels. It just seems like they'd have to put a lot more thought into it.
So what's the deal with that?
So when they, when Kevin Williamson wrote the script to Scream, what a crazy sentence that was.
Yeah.
He also wrote a little 15-page what could be a sequel to entice studios to maybe make a franchise.
Oh, okay. Okay, so he got a head start.
Yeah, he kind of had a head start. And then the production of this movie begins just 6 months after Scream.
Okay, I have a question, but...
Oh, yeah. What do you have?
Well, okay, so the last movie inspired copycat people to actually stab people as that character.
Yeah.
And this movie, it feels like... without knowing anything about how it's made, it's like it almost feels inspired by.
It does feel that way.
Those things. Did you see anything about that?
Not a single thing.
Because it also does, like with, let's say that never happened. It just kind of like makes sense too that would be part of this movie.
Right.
Like it's almost like a coincidence, but it does feel like they're addressing it.
No,
I mean, that's like one of the killer's motives.
I know. Yeah. Let me look here because there are. No, not legacy. I need controversies. So in 1998, there was a thing. So that would have been after Scream 2.
Yeah.
In 1999, 2002. So all the copycat.
It was after this movie.
Would have come out after this movie.
Oh, so maybe this movie inspired people. Like both movies, but this movie, because it addresses that.
Yeah. That's kind of weird. It's like they're kind of saying it.
It's weird. It's just very fascinating.
Yeah, because after watching this movie last night, I assumed, okay, they waited 3, 4, 5 years or whatever. And then those copycat killings or attempted killings had happened in real life. And they were like, let's comment on sequels and the nature of like violence in film.
What horror how it can play a role in things.
But I guess none of that had happened yet. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so pretty much very quickly into them, this Scream coming out, Dimension, one of the studios, just says, okay, we'll do that sequel. And it was so much easier to get everyone on board because the other movie was
successful,
blowing up at the box office and stuff. Everyone wanted to be in it.
Yeah.
And Craven was happy to come back.
Everyone is in it.
Everyone is in it. So... Now let's talk about some other stuff. The cast didn't get the last 10 pages of the script until days before, like the days they were shooting. Because, and I don't know if this is like the first movie for this to happen, but there was internet leaks.
Oh, okay.
There was like a draft that was leaked on the internet.
Yeah.
And so...
The beginning of that.
I know, because like on what I was reading, they're saying after that, they started doing all these disclosure agreements with all the actors and stuff. All of that stuff is standard protocol for like every movie now.
Yeah.
But back then, I guess that was unusual to be like, you got to sign this thing and you're not allowed to tell people about the ending of the movie and you're not. But that's like, you do any movie and you say anything in press, you're getting in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
people should look up that really funny press interview with Mark Ruffalo and Don Cheadle.
Where he talks about Infinity War.
Like says spoilers, and Don Cheadle is just so funny, and Mark's like, was I not supposed to say that? And Don Cheadle's like, I didn't say anything, but I wouldn't have said that. I would have never said that. And Mark Ruffalo
No, he just said like, I would stop if I was you. I would stop.
And Mark looks like just a kid that knows he's in trouble.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah, so this could be like one of the first movies where that's happening. Because 97, it's still, the internet is not like for everybody.
Yeah.
Kind of strange. But yeah, so there were leaks and and also it was a 5-page treatment that Williams had made for studios, not a 15. And so because of the leaks and the quick production, Williamson was rewriting the script like as they were shooting a lot.
Oh, wow.
And Craven had to do a lot of like reworking of scenes and stuff because the script was not like perfectly polished.
That's a nightmare. I mean, also I think that's just kind of how it goes too.
Yeah.
Like that we just don't know about, but that's a nightmare.
I know it's just crazy because a lot of times you hear that and you go, especially like if a movie's coming out now and you're hearing about how they didn't have a finished script and they were rewriting it on set and you go, oh, this movie's going to be a disaster. And none of that stuff shines through to me when I watch that movie.
No, and apparently The Shining was like that. They would show up and Kubrick hands them like 30 new pages they've never seen before. And they have to learn 30 pages of a movie on the day that they're supposed to shoot it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something that he was known for. I just know about that movie.
Yeah.
But he does kind of seem like a director. You show up and it's like, okay, we're doing this today.
Right. And that movie, because of how strange and weird it is, when I hear that fact, it is interesting, but I'm not like, oh, that's so shocking to me.
No, I think sometimes if I'm hearing it leading up to a movie, it does make me feel like, how can this be good then? Because when I hear that, sometimes I think, oh, they're not confident.
Oh, yeah.
This is different. This is them trying to avoid all the leaks and stuff, but you know what I mean? And then you hear, I mean, even when you hear Suicide Squad had to be reshot because it was too dark. Like they had to make
reshoots,
sorry. They had to do reshoots for that. And it's like, shouldn't have said it. I mean, I know they have to.
Yeah.
And they're going to. But just when you hear stuff like that, it's like, oh, I'm going into this with lower expectations.
Yeah. But to finish, The Shining doesn't surprise me because of how strange it is.
Uh-huh.
This one, when I read that fact, I'm like, oh, that's surprising because this script doesn't feel all over the place.
Yeah.
It feels pretty pointed the whole time. But in 2017, Williamson said that he created a dummy draft, and that's what got leaked on the internet. They were worried the killer's identity would be leaked, so he wrote several endings, 3 in all, if memory serves. And when actors and potential crew members asked to read the script, we would send the script with the dummy ending. There was even a fake ending where Dewey was the killer. They existed as a decoy and nothing more. Extreme measures, but we really wanted to keep the killer's identity a secret.
Love it. I love that.
I don't know if he's just covering his butt or if that's a real story, though.
Yeah, but have you heard Edgar Wright doing stuff like for his movie that's coming out? I think I've seen him post things or even at screenings that he's done, like asking people not to talk about it.
Cool.
Yeah. Because he wants everyone to have the first experience.
Maybe by now we'll have seen it once this episode comes out.
Hopefully.
I think it comes out soon, like the 17th, I want to say. But I'm not sure. We just watched Malignant last night.
Yeah.
And it's been out for a little while.
Yeah.
What a wild ride.
Truly a wild ride. I saw people saying leading up to me watching it how much they laughed, but that's really the whole review. It was like, I just laughed and laughed, but not why or
Yeah.
anything. And it's just like, don't really get it, but I'm glad they didn't say too much. And then we're watching the movie and I laughed and laughed.
I think, because, for those who don't remember, James Wan, Conjuring, Saw, Insidious, and Aquaman. So we've talked about him a lot on this podcast. I don't think it was a good movie, but it was a fun addition in the James Wan canon. And I would totally watch it again. Not soon, but it's like he took the energy and cheesiness and craziness of Aquaman and was like, what if I put this in a Conjuring movie? But
it's not even close to a Conjuring movie. It is nothing like any Conjuring movie I've seen, which is not many. But yeah.
It was kind of wild.
The girl, the main character, is the girl in The Mummy, the Tom Cruise one. That's what we know her from.
Okay.
But she's blonde in that movie. So she looks pretty different.
Okay. But was she like a love interest for him or something?
Yeah, she's like the girl.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. We wouldn't let me finish the movie. So I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I just turned it off halfway through.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
It was bad, but I was like, I'm not done yet. But we had to be done.
Yeah. It's a rare time when I do that.
It is.
Just cut me some slack.
Guys, I know, like, don't take that as Mike as a hard ass on that. If I really wanted to finish the movie, I would have finished it.
Yeah.
Clearly, I didn't like it enough.
Yeah.
I didn't like it at all. But I could have finished it.
That was so funny. I don't know if you knew about this, but they released the trailer for that movie without any. It only had sound effects.
Yeah, I've seen it, and it's just him screaming on the plane.
Yeah.
No music, nothing.
Like they accidentally didn't, like they sent like the wrong copy of the trailer to
How do you do that?
Studios and theaters, or not studios, but theaters, and all these theaters everywhere. Like I think it was the first trailer. It's just showing
Tom Cruise screaming.
Just goosh. Amazing. Okay, so let's talk about some other stuff on this movie. They submitted it to the MPAA 8 times to get a pass. So they had to cut it.
This one seems more tame than the last one.
It does, but so Craven learned from his previous mistakes.
Yeah.
And he had a really smart idea where he made like a really gruesome over-the-top cut as the first cut so that they'd send it back and be like, you need to cut this scene. And he'd be like, yeah, that scene's stupid.
Oh, yeah, that is smart.
So like a couple of the things he did was he
whose head gets sliced off?
Well, he said he reused at the beginning when Omar Epps is in the bathroom and gets stabbed in the ear.
Yeah. He
reused that 3 times in the movie so that they would tell him to cut that scene a couple of times.
Huh.
And then he could use it the one time he wanted to use it. And then there was an extended scene of Randy Meek's death that showed his throat being slashed, which he never intended to use.
Yeah.
So that's kind of smart.
Yeah.
Now, did you wonder at all about the play that was being shown?
Yeah.
Okay.
Greek mythology.
So it is the Orestia, and it's a trilogy of Greek plays centering around an ancient Greek woman named Cassandra.
It sounded like it was around Troy, like something like around that story.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got more to say on it.
Then tell us.
The specific play is Agamemnon, and it can be identified because Cassandra and the chorus are wondering if she would enter the palace since she knows she will die if doing so. Okay, so here's
Is she like the god of war or something?
I'm getting there. So here's like a long quote about how this play has to deal with Scream. So this is a tragedy focusing around a single female heroine, Cassandra. The Scream trilogy is also a tragedy around Sydney. The Orestia is about Cassandra's life after she is cursed by Apollo. The Scream franchise is about Sydney's life after her mother's death, which we could consider a curse. There's a running theme in the play about murder and revenge. And so obviously that plays out through this movie as well. And there's like familial murder So it makes sense that they chose this play kind of as an illustration of Scream.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions about it?
Nope.
Okay. And then finally, I say that like I only have one more. I have a couple more. They were gonna call it Scream Again or Scream Louder or Scream the Sequel, and the studio was like, no, Scream 2.
Let's just do Scream 2, is what they said.
I like Scream Again or Scream Louder.
I like Scream Louder.
Yeah, that's a good
one. And then
one.
3 is Scream Loudest, and then Scream 4 is Scream Loudest times 2, and then the new movie that's coming out is Scream Loudest Infinity. And then anyone after that is Scream Loudest Infinity plus 1.
Louis Arquette is the father of David Arquette, and he is the sheriff in this movie.
Oh, wow. Okay. Good for him.
Yeah. It was a 9-week shoot, and the movie takes place in Ohio, to answer your question.
Yeah, but that doesn't tell me what college.
No.
Or like what the set is.
That's just where it was supposed to be. And then the score of this movie uses pieces from Hans Zimmer's score for Broken Arrow, which was originally just a placeholder, but test screenings, it went really well. Wow. And it's all that like guitar stuff as Dewey's walking around.
I like that a lot.
That's Hans Zimmer.
How does that work?
Well, they either I think Marco Beltrami just like used that and kind of molded it to the movie. And then there's also, this is a big one. Danny Elfman did the scoring during the play, and then at the end when there's like the choral intensity, like the choir is singing. Danny Elfman did that.
That's cool.
Yeah. So there's kind of like 3. Hans Zimmer was not involved in this production. It sounds like Danny Elfman was a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun that there's
Danny had a spare minute to help.
Yeah.
With something.
And it's not, from what I read, this was not something where like they stole Hans Zimmer music. It was like they were using it and then they continued to use it, and I'm sure that they got him paid or what. Like Marco Beltrami is not like,
he didn't steal it.
No, I don't know about that score. He's like, oh yeah, we used it as a temp track, and then I used it later because everybody liked it.
I'm sure that happens all the time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I just found something crazy that I've never realized.
I'm done
before.
with all my notes.
Okay, this is not related to this movie. I was looking at Louis Arquette's filmography because I am curious what else that guy has been in. And I think he's just in a ton of stuff, and I've seen some of this stuff. But then I saw a poster for this movie that just looks truly awful, starring David Arquette, and he's in it too, called Ready to Rumble. And it's got one of the worst posters I've ever seen. But one of the dudes on the poster with him is Scott Conn.
Scott Conn.
And then I see his picture and I'm like, wait a second. That guy who's in Ocean's 11, he's in Ocean's 11.
Oh, yeah. He's one of the brothers.
James Caan's son. Look at his face. Look at his face and tell me that that's not his son.
No, when you say it, it's
Isn't
totally
that crazy?
him.
It looks exactly like him.
Yeah, I've never put that together.
Me neither. I'm blown away right now.
Yeah.
And this isn't even Scream related, and I'm blown away.
That's okay. I get it.
That's the fun actor stuff that I like to find. And you're thinking, Jordan, you don't prepare for the show ever.
You have 3 times.
Done more than 3.
You did Batman, Godfather, and Godfather 3.
I think I started off strong at the beginning of this podcast. I am not a good preparer, I've learned about myself.
Yeah.
I think I'm like, I'm not in school anymore. I don't have to do homework anymore.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to you. And I'd like to publicly apologize.
Well, if it helps you at all, I edit it so that people don't realize that that's happening. So it's just more work for me is all.
Okay, so since there are because all of Hollywood is in this movie, I'm not going to really go through every person.
Okay.
Like I'm going to say Luke Wilson's in this movie.
Oh yeah, we don't have to go over those people, but
But it's fun to know. Luke Wilson has a very fun cameo in this movie where he plays Billy in the
we'll talk about it when we get there.
This is my part of the show. And then Tori Spelling also plays Sydney in the remake of the movie. Or it's not, the movie's not a remake, but the movie within a movie.
Yeah.
And then we have Portia de Rossi, who plays sorority sister Murphy, which I did not remember that she was in this movie, but
No.
it's Lindsay Bluth in Arrested Development.
And she's playing Lindsay Bluth in this.
She is. And then, like you said, Louis Arquette, David Arquette's dad, he is in Tango and Cash, Little Nicky, Waiting for Guffman. Sorry. The Christopher Guest movie.
Yeah. Which actor are you talking about?
Louis Arquette.
Oh, okay.
Why do they keep calling him a lord in Blank Check? Christopher Guest.
I think he is a lord.
How is that? How?
Like he... maybe not.
I don't know. I guess I got to look back on his lineage or something. And then Laurie Metcalf is in this.
Yeah.
Which was also, I just can never remember that she's in this movie, which is kind of crazy because I think even at this, let's see where she was at in her career.
Yeah, he's a member of the House of Lords.
That's it?
I don't know what that
means. What
means.
Does that mean?
They're a secular member of British Parliament.
So is that something you're just born into?
I thought he was American.
He's not American?
No.
I think that's what was confusing to me.
Well, okay, he's not I don't think he's a member anymore because he was 96 to 99.
Yeah, they said he was a lord.
He was born in New York City, though.
But his parents can be from England.
When using his title, he is normally styled as Lord Hayden Guest. I don't think in movies.
Who is this onion?
Yeah, a British United Nations diplomat was his father. Yeah, so wow.
Where's his biography, right?
Oh, yeah, that'd be a fun read, I'm sure.
Okay, so Laurie Metcalf, around the time this movie comes out... Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I gotta do it this way. Okay.
You're looking at Laurie Met Hamstring?
Yeah. So, I mean, by the time she's in this movie, she's like, it's Laurie Metcalf. Like, everyone knows her. So, it's just crazy that I can never remember she's in it, especially because her being in this movie, I think you get, maybe you don't, but get to a point in the movie where it's like, why is she just a reporter in this movie?
Uh-huh.
And then when the big twist happens, it's like, oh, duh. She's part of the twist. Why wouldn't she? It's Laurie Metcalf.
Which, this was great because watching this movie again, I totally forgot who the killer was. So I was trying to figure it out the whole movie, even though I had seen this movie just a year ago.
Yeah. Well, I remembered that it was like the mom, and I knew it was Timothy, but I couldn't remember that it was like Laurie Metcalf.
Well, so because of something I'll talk about next episode, I'm always waiting for this certain actor to pop up in these movies because I always get them confused. I think after doing this podcast, I won't anymore.
Yeah.
But it's like when we were watching him, I was like, what's the one that I saw this thing and knew that the killer was this guy? And I was like, what the heck is going on? So when this started, I'm like,
not in them at all.
I'm like, this is the one. Like, he's definitely in Scream 2. And then it's going, and I'm like, that actor's not in this.
Oh, that's funny.
And so then I was like, I don't know who did it. And then I had a vision of Timothy Olyphant having blood on his face, and I went, oh yeah, he's the killer.
Yeah.
And then the reporter did something, and I went, oh yeah, that's right.
I think because I remember you said it, or you just said, oh yeah, and it was pretty late in the movie, and she popped up again, and I think that might have been when Courtney Cox went, like she was on the payphone or something.
Yep, that was the scene. Yeah. It was like a half hour before the end of the movie. It was like 10 minutes away from the reveal that I remembered. I didn't even figure it out.
Well,
I just
this is
remembered.
Only your second time. I should remember.
Well, I bet you will now, because I feel like
I'm talking about it.
Whenever we do a podcast, my retention on the movies we talk about is like, it's crazy higher.
Yeah. Dwayne Martin plays Joel, who is the new cameraman for Courtney Cox. He just deserves a shout out. He was great.
He's really good.
He's in The Odd Couple, New Edition, Sister Code, Rita Rock, just a ton of TV shows. Ghost Whisperer. He's all up in TV shows. And then Jerry O'Connell plays Derek. He is in Stand By Me. And maybe at this point in history, a lot of people are like, yeah, we know that now. But when I found out that he plays the chubby kid in Stand By Me, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. He looks great. Not that him being chubby doesn't look great. It's just, you didn't think that he'd grow up to look the way that he does.
Like a statue?
But what I know him best from is Kangaroo Jack.
Right. He's not in Jerry Maguire, right?
I don't know. Oh, I guess I should know. When did that movie come out?
I don't know. I think he is.
He is in so much. It's crazy.
But I don't know if that's like a weird memory since I've only seen the movie once of just knowing that it's called Jerry and thinking Jerry Maguire, Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah, he is.
He is. Okay.
He is. Yeah.
I got to watch that movie again. Great movie, but you don't have to talk about it.
Yeah. He's also in Jerry Maguire.
But you can. I'm teasing you.
I just don't like that movie very much. And then Timothy Olyphant plays Mickey. He is in Justified, The Crazies, a perfect getaway.
Deadwood.
Oh yeah, he is like one of the big dudes in Deadwood.
Yeah.
And then he's also in Quentin Tarantino's most recent movie.
Yeah.
He's also in Fargo.
Yeah. And Mandalorian.
Mandalorian.
I do want to say something quick. Earlier, I said his name. I said Timothy Olyphant because I got it confused in my head to when Sam and Frodo see the Olyphants.
I'm assuming it's pronounced Olyphant.
But you said Olyphant, and I'm pretty sure you're right.
It's an A.
But I just thought it was funny that I pronounced it like you would the giant elephants in The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I mean, I think his parents are those. And then Sarah Michelle Gellar's in this movie, which was another person I can never remember. She plays Daphne in Scooby-Doo, so we're keeping it in the family with her. So it's like, who could be in the next two? She's also in Cruel Intentions. She is Buffy, the titular Buffy.
That's right. So she was probably very poorly treated by Joss Whedon.
She's also in I Know What You Did Last Summer.
She is... Well, just a reminder to people, we had discussed it last episode that next month on Patreon, we're going to cover the Scooby-Doo movies.
Yep.
And so we'll be talking a lot about her.
Yep.
Next month.
And then...
Patreon.com/MicahMcCaw or link in the description of this video.
Now we can talk about Liev.
Let's talk about Liev.
Liev Schreiber, who is in Spotlight, X-Men Origins, The Manchurian Candidate. Everything is illuminated.
Isle of Dogs.
Isle of Dogs. He is Ray Donovan.
Yeah, he is. Nobody else could do it.
He plays Wilson Fisk in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
That's right. Oh, cool.
He's so good. So
wonderful.
This is my history with Liev.
Yeah.
Growing up and starting to get an opinion about things, whenever I would see him in something, which is probably admittedly not a lot when you're a kid, I just never liked him. I was just like, that guy is so expressionless and he's always the same person. I don't like him.
Whoa.
And then I saw Hamlet, because he's in Hamlet.
The Ethan Hawke one?
The Ethan Hawke one. So it's Hamlet, but it's contemporary, but they speak Shakespearean, and it's such an amazing movie. I've been trying to get Micah to watch it for years, and he'll never watch it.
Right. Because I never take your suggestions.
I know. And he was so good in it that I have since changed my tune on him. And I love him, and he's great. And I want him to narrate an audiobook.
Yeah, he's so good. I've never seen anything less than stellar from him. And I also think in this movie, he is insanely good.
He's so good.
He is so
He's
good.
Amazing. And he's in it just enough that it makes me want more.
Yeah.
Do you have something?
No.
Oh. And then
I'm
Elise
just trying to
Neal,
look something up right now. That's all.
Elise Neal plays Hallie, Sydney's friend in college.
Okay.
She's in Hustle and Flow, Logan, Money Talks, A State of Mind, A Black Lady Sketch Show, Into the Dark, and a ton of other shows and movies. It's insane. And then let's see. Heather Graham plays Casey in the movie within a movie.
Yeah.
So she plays Drew Barrymore, which is a fun get.
Yeah.
I feel like I wonder if this actress quit acting or retired, because I don't see her in anything anymore. But that just might be me.
Yeah.
I think it's probably me because she has 108 acting credits.
Yeah, she's probably still acting.
But she's always, every time she's in something, I just love it.
Yeah.
She is in Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, Boogie Nights, Bowfinger, Lost in Space, The Stand, Yeah, the newsstand show.
So she is still acting.
Yeah. She isn't so much, and she's so great. But this movie, I didn't know that movie was Bowfinger. Because, okay, so this movie was on TV a lot growing up, and I always loved it. It was so funny. Have you seen it?
No.
It's Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
So it's got my guy Eddie Murphy in it as a kid. And it's when a desperate movie producer fails to get a major star for his bargain basement film, he decides to shoot the film secretly around him. And I remember it being so funny, so we should try and watch it sometime.
Okay.
And she's in it, and I thought she was so funny.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a great plot. I mean,
yeah. And then Omar Epps plays Phil at the beginning of the movie.
So I looked him up earlier because I just want to. Can I cut in?
Oh, he's in Love and Basketball.
That's what I was gonna say.
He's the guy?
He's the guy.
Okay.
So like the whole movie, when I guess he's just at the beginning, but I was like, man, this guy is. First of all, he's awesome in this movie. Yeah. But I was like, I know this is a good actor, but what else is he in?
I think I also know him a lot from House.
And that was the other thing. So I saw those two things, and I thought, okay, no wonder I am aware of this person and recognized him.
Yeah. He was so good. As well as Jada Pinkett Smith.
Yeah.
Who is in Matrix, Girls Trip, Collateral, Madagascar,
the Gotham TV show. I looked her up today to spend some time because
Micah didn't know it was her.
Well, I have like face blindness with Jada for some reason. Every time I see her, I'm always like, who is this actress? She is unbelievable. And then it's like, oh, that's Jada. Okay, I think I got it now.
Yeah, I hope so, because she's always amazing.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just one of those things. But that's why I was like, I'm going to Wikipedia, because I was also confused about when she started acting in regards to having a last name Smith.
When was that?
And I think that's around like this time.
Oh, okay.
And on, I think. Because for a while it was just Jada Pinkett.
Yeah. Was
what she was billed as in other movies.
Because she wasn't married to Will Smith.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I was just like, the way she's talked about, it just felt like I missed something. I think because I didn't grow up watching The Matrix, I think I probably like missed who she was as a person.
Who is she in The Matrix?
She is I don't remember her character name, but
she's like one of the people working
in Zion.
Is that the
like the real world?
Okay.
Yeah, behind the scenes. But she's in the last two movies.
Not the she's not in
The Matrix.
Because she's with Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, I don't know if she's with him.
Do they have a lot of scenes together?
I think so.
Okay.
Been a little bit.
Yeah.
We need to bone up before
Matrix is so hard for me because I didn't grow up watching it. Like, I didn't watch it until I was like a young adult. Well, maybe even beyond being a teenager. I just missed it.
Well, early last summer, I showed you Matrix 2 and 3 for the first time ever.
Yeah, so just because I'm so behind on that stuff, I hardly remember anything that happens in those movies.
Yeah. And I've only seen them all twice.
Oh, okay.
So I anticipate and look forward to seeing them all a third time.
Yeah, the third one was pretty wild.
Third one was wild. They're all really wild.
Yeah, but like wild.
Well, define your wild.
In that movie.
There were butts in that movie.
There were bare butts in that movie.
Is that the orgy scene
one?
Yeah. I thought that was the second one, but
I thought that was the third one. Maybe it's the second one.
I'm pretty sure it's the second one. Because the third one is kind of like all action. Because remember, it ends on that cliffhanger with the one guy. Anyway.
What? Oh, okay. What?
At some point on this podcast, we'll talk about The Matrix.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we good to jump in?
Yeah.
So the movie starts. My favorite scene of the movie, I just got to say it outright. So cool.
Starts on a big high note.
Yeah, they go to the theater, and there is this movie Stab playing, and it's Jada Pinkett Smith and Omar Epps.
Yeah.
And
I keep wanting to say eggs for some reason.
Omar Eggs. First of all, he's got the coolest name. Omar Epps. You could say that all day long. I love that name.
This theater experience sounds like the worst theater experience I could ever be in. While simultaneously watching it, it's like, this feels fun. This seems fun to be there. So it's Stab. It is the movie based on Gale Weathers' book, which is retelling the events of Scream 1. Like we said.
One thing I want to point out, through these two characters, and through the cameraman, Joel, we have this really fun... I think they could go farther with it because they actually follow the tropes.
Yeah.
But they talk about, like in this scene, Jada doesn't want to go, and she's basically like, yeah, well, horror movies aren't real good on black people, are they now?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, come on, you just like are so uncomfortable with anything that's white. And he makes some jokes about it, and all that stuff is really fun. And then later, Joel is like, I got to get out of here. Like, this kind of stuff is not good to brothers.
Yeah.
So I like that they're...
and he makes it.
He does make it, you're right. But it is funny because the first kill of this movie is a black person. It's Omar Epps.
Yes.
So they still are, like, filling the tropes of
horror movies
happen to black people in horror movies.
Yeah.
But it is... I like that they're addressing it. It'd be kind of cool. Maybe if in the new one, it'd be cool if they... I guess that's kind of tired, though, now. I think it's pretty... Like, we've all said that.
Yeah.
It would have been a little more...
Well, they've already done it. Why do they need to do it again?
I just keep trying to think of, like, what could be the take of the movie that's coming out in January.
Yeah.
So, don't listen to me.
Micah, trust them. They got it.
I hope so.
So yeah, they're handing out ghost face costumes for anyone to wear that comes with the plastic knives.
Yeah.
So everyone's dressed up as Ghostface, running around, chasing people with knives, telling people to stab people. Like it is a HR disaster waiting to happen.
Well,
at this theater.
This is also like watching it now. It's kind of like, oh, this would never happen. You know what I mean? But this is pre Dark Knight Rises when like after that premiere, pretty much they were like, you can't bring, like backpacks in. You can't wear a costume if it covers your face, and you can't bring any sort of weapon, whether it's fake or not, which is a good rule.
Yeah.
But
it's a dark room full of strangers.
Yeah. But it is kind of like I look at this and I'm like, oh, it was fun when you used to go to premieres of movies and people would like really dress up as characters.
Yeah.
But now they can't anymore.
Yeah.
And it's good. I think it's good.
Oh,
but,
over on the whole.
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
But I know what you mean. It's like we do miss out on that now.
But there's also like not midnight premieres anymore the way there were when we were kids. So like the whole fun of the premiere is not even there anymore.
No, it's not. You just reserve a seat.
They should just bring that back though. Not the reserved. I mean, the reserved seat, fine, but they should do like, no, Star Wars is not going to come out at 6 p.m. the day before. It's coming out at 12 a.m. That's the first time you can see it.
Yeah.
They should do that.
I bet some still do that.
Yeah, but I mean,
fun. I know like technically
probably horror movies do.
Yeah, that would make sense. Anyway.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So, so the movie, it's the opening scene to Scream 1. So it is a girl, but I mean, it's a little bit different. Like she's going to take a shower. And like, the audience is freaking out because she disrobes. And Jada Pinkett Smith, it's like she doesn't like respect horror movies for one, but then you kind of see like, oh no, she's just scared of horror movies as well. So she goes to get some popcorn and soda. And then Omar sees her too, or scares her while she's out there. And then she goes back into the theater while he goes to the bathroom.
Yeah, and I forgot to point out that the most of the scenes in Stab were directed by Robert Rodriguez, who's the director of like Sin City and Spy Kids, and so
okay,
it's pretty cool that they got like a legit director to do it.
That's cool.
And you can tell that the people, like, he had fun directing those scenes.
Oh, yeah.
And going, like, really over the top.
Definitely. Something he's, like, not known for doing. So, Omar goes to the bathroom, and it's full of Ghostface. This
is insane.
It is. So he goes to a stall, and he hears some people whispering, or someone whispering in the stall beside him. And he puts his ear up next to it, and he gets stabbed in the head through the stall.
So gnarly.
Yeah. And what's, crazy and terrifying is everyone's dressed like this. It could be anybody.
Yep.
Therefore, the guy's going to get away. No problem.
Yeah.
So, Omar, dead. Meanwhile, Jada is in the theater screaming at the screen for, don't do this, don't do that. Oh, she's so dumb. And I just love that.
Yep.
Because then she just gets scared.
Uh-huh.
And then Omar gets back. she's still screaming at the screen and everything. And she notices though that her hands are covered in blood when she touches him.
Yeah.
And she's realizing this isn't my boyfriend.
Yeah.
And this person stabs her.
And this death is rough.
It is. But okay, so before knowing that there were copycat things that happened after this movie, I was under the assumption that they have already happened in between these two movies.
You're talking about the real copycat attempts at murder.
Because this feels like they're really sitting in how terrible this is.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of like the last movie when it was not going well for Drew Barrymore and the music changed and this felt this feels harrowing.
Yes.
So like, she's stabbed
and
several.
Also great word usage.
Thank you. It's especially terrifying when you're in a room full of people who are having such a great time and laughing. And did you notice like she's walking into the aisle and some of her blood gets on a person and the person's like looking down at their arm and then looking at her?
Oh, I did not notice that.
Arm, like someone notices that something's not right, but that's just one person out of a full theater. And then she stumbles up in front of the screen in front of everybody and she's just screaming and bleeding and all people are doing is just staring at her.
Yeah.
In shock.
I know it's
scary.
It's really scary because it also just makes me feel like, I don't know, when you're in situations like that, you don't know if it's like a publicity stunt or especially back then. I mean, if that happened today, I think I would hope that it'd be like, whoa, everyone, call 911.
Well, yeah, it's like the bystander effect. In more populated areas, if someone's in distress, less people are willing to help. It's just a fact.
Right.
So it's like a room full of people, and this person's up on stage all bloody. What's going through everyone's head is this real? Or I'm sure someone's already called someone.
I know.
Kind of thing.
That's the craziness. I mean, it's like when we were in New York a couple weeks ago. You'll just hear a scream or someone yelling or something, and you just go. I mean, you look around, but if you don't see anything, you just go. I'm assuming someone was messing around.
Well, I think even us as tourists are like, I'm a tourist. I don't really know what to do, so I'm just going to keep walking. Probably not okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting.
Sorry, I bumped it. Okay, so
now we cut to college, where Sydney is,
and she's getting prank calls from people who are calling her like the ghost face. Mm-hmm. But she has this novel thing that they flash like it's really impressive in this movie called caller ID.
Love it. We love to see it.
Yeah, and it is great because they call and she's just so, we've seen that she's like, she can take it.
Uh-huh.
And so they're calling and they're going, Sydney, da-da-da-da-da. And she goes, oh, yeah, you're calling from 555-7213. I'm about to call the police. Your name's this, da-da-da-da-da. And the person's just going, oh, no, and they hang up the phone.
Great.
So she's okay.
But she wakes up to... So the premiere was last night. She's aware of it. That's why she's like, the calls are going to get bad for a while.
Uh-huh.
But she also wakes up to 2 people from their college were murdered last night at the premiere.
Yeah.
So it is like, okay, it's probably just a copycat thing.
Yeah.
But could it be happening again? But it's the beginning of the movie, so we don't think that.
Right.
Or our leading lady doesn't think that.
Yeah.
So she is living in a dorm with her roommate. And her roommate, what she is really concerned about is pledging at the sorority.
Right.
Fun college stuff.
Yeah, and Sydney's not at all. Just like our friend Sydney, she's not interested in being in a sorority.
Yeah. And also on campus, the press is there because of what just happened.
Yeah, so Courtney Cox is there, of course. Yeah. And Cotton Weary is out of jail, and there's like some talks about him on TV. We kind of see like, okay, he's out.
Uh-huh.
And that's a little worrisome for Sydney, but whatever. She's not going to worry about it right now.
But he's not guilty.
Yes.
He's exonerated.
But I mean, she knows that she put him in prison. So she would certainly be worried, but she's like, I'm not going to think about that right now.
Right.
I just got to move
And she's got a new boyfriend.
Yeah, Jerry O'Connell.
Jerry O'Connell, played by Derek. And Jerry
O'Connell, played by Derek.
Oh, played
Derek, played by Jerry O'Connell.
What's interesting about the casting that I think they did a really good job at is he seems so different than Billy.
Yeah.
It's like she dated the most clean-cut, best person she could possibly find.
I mean, this seems like a guy that would try to recreate a scene from Top Gun in the cafeteria singing a song.
Oh, is that from Top Gun?
Yeah, they say he's doing the thing from Top Gun.
Oh, I've seen the movie once.
But I don't remember that part in Top Gun either.
Oh, okay.
But they say it in this movie.
Okay.
You should have remembered that single piece of dialogue.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Apologize to the listeners. So now let's go to the film class.
Yeah, which is where we meet Timothy Oliphant as Mickey,
yes.
played by Mickey. Randy, where we're introduced to Randy.
Yeah. Sarah
Michelle Gellar's in there. It's just fun.
Yeah, and they're discussing,
they're discussing what happened.
Yes. Yeah.
Micah, they're discussing what happened.
They're discussing if life imitates art or art can imitate life, or what's that correlation.
Yeah.
And in regards to this, they're saying, like, did this movie inspire the people to be killers, or which is a big topic that's pretty hard to understand.
Yeah.
And figure out. I mean, I think for the most part, just like when I was a kid, I remember when what was that game? Grand Theft Auto came out.
Okay.
I remember seeing news reports because I was still pretty young when the first one came out, and there were these news reports about like kids who were running around like trying to kill people and stuff because of Grand Theft Auto.
I didn't know that about Grand Theft Auto. I know that about Slender Man.
Yeah, but this sort of thing does happen, and on the one hand, it is like I do think there is a responsibility as an artist on what you're making, but there is also an element of like once it's done, you don't really have control of what's going to happen to it.
Yeah.
So like I think about The Matrix, and there's the red pill and the blue pill, and The Matrix is clearly not about men's activism. But the men's rights activists have hijacked the term red pill to mean like you've all swallowed the red pill.
Oh, really?
And I think it's this way, like you've all swallowed the red pill and you believe that women are equal to us men.
That's a real thing.
That's a real thing.
Oh, I've not heard of that.
Yeah, it's a big online, it's right up there with like, what's the Gavin Newsom crap? The Proud Boys and stuff like that. It's all in that like camp of people who are like, think that men are losing rights. But it's like, at that point, that is not the Wachowskis' problem, I think.
No.
I'm not saying this is a different, but I'm trying to discuss the concept as well, along with our characters.
I mean, have you heard of adolescents committing suicide and families suing bands over it because they listen to that band's music?
Oh, your senior project rears its head.
Well, though that happened in My Chemical Romance.
It did? Okay.
And the family blamed them and believed that they were responsible or contributed to their daughter making that decision. And it's just like, huh? Whoa. I've never considered that.
Yeah. And that's stuff I know, as us as artists, if our art was, hijacked to represent like, whether we intended it or not, like the Wachowskis, like if our art was hijacked to represent like a Nazi movement, I don't know how I could ever come to grips with myself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, or if like my music somehow influenced someone to
commit an act of violence.
Yeah, that would be devastating. But it also, I mean, you just have to try your best as an artist to put good out there and try to influence good. But sometimes that means you're exploring dark stuff.
Yeah. Well, that
like I love these Scream movies. I think they're great. I would not say like I wish they had never been made.
No, but I think another thing that I just thought of is when Joker came out, people were threatening to shoot theaters or to go to theaters to do bad things, and nothing happened that we know of.
No,
nationwide, but it was enough that you and I were like, let's not go to the movie tonight.
Yeah, we went to like a different showing because like we just had a pit in our stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a weird one.
And that's crazy because that was opening weekend, like people hadn't even seen that movie yet.
Yeah. And that one's like, for as many problems as we have with the movie, I don't know that it's Todd Phillips' fault that like people reacted that way. You know?
Yeah.
It's like he made a movie. He was just trying to make a movie.
Yeah.
I think he's got some weird ideas that he's trying to convey in the movie.
Well, and I like don't know if I agree with how mental illness is.
Yeah,
portrayed,
there's like a lot of that stuff, but
yeah.
I don't think that he went in with the intent of like, I hope we can rile up again men's rights activism groups to like go to this movie and stir up trouble. It's like that's not
yeah
that's not what him and Joaquin were trying to do at all. But let's go to their more fun topic of discussion.
Okay, so they talk about how sequels are never better than the originals.
That's what they talk about, folks. This seems like a seminal moment in our podcast that we're covering this.
And specifically, Randy says that.
Randy says it. Randy would be a bad guest on our podcast.
And Randy, I can't remember the exact thing that he says, but it's almost just like by making a sequel alone means that it's worse.
Yep.
And I think, does he in reference to it's after the thing that was good enough to make a second thing made.
Right.
And that's definitely an interesting thought.
It is an argument.
But then people right away bring up some really good sequels, like Aliens.
Yes.
T2,
a movie we've covered.
Or potentially the best sequel ever made, Godfather Part 2.
Yeah.
According to film buffs.
It is very funny, though, because I think for the time that this movie came out, all of that tracks. But watching the movie now, I'm talking about Scream, watching Scream 2 now, it's very much like, well, yeah, those are like the obvious answers everyone's going to say.
Yeah.
When you bring up those sequel examples.
Yeah.
I think back then, not as much. I mean, people were probably just saying that still, but now it's like we're like 30 years past, and that's like a tired thing to argue. It like I try to look in our podcast for movies that it would be unusual to be like, oh, actually, I think, you know, again, I'll say it again, Shrek Forever After is the best Shrek movie.
Yeah.
But I do like that one of them says a movie I've never heard of called House 2.
Yeah. House 2, the second story.
Yeah, which I don't know, maybe that was just made up.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was.
I've never heard of it.
And later in the movie, and this will rile up all of our Star Wars fans, especially Mike.
Yeah, Randy's just wrong about this.
Randy just has, and he's a film buff, but Timothy says to him, oh, I thought of one.
This is a movie. Wait, hold on.
Oh, okay.
House 2, the second story. The new owner of a sinister house gets involved with reanimated corpses and demons searching for an ancient Aztec skull with magic powers. So when are we watching this? Because look at the cover of this movie. They don't make covers that cool anymore.
No. Is House 1 the house, like the Japanese horror movie?
No.
Are you sure?
This has a very bad rating.
House 2?
Yeah, and House 1, kind of the same. Okay. A troubled writer moves into a haunted house after inheriting from his aunt.
I mean, we may have to cover that.
I would love to watch this.
We might have to cover those just to complete our Screamness. But
yeah.
So later in the movie, Timothy Oliphant, Timothy,
however you want,
goes up to Randy and he goes, I thought of a movie where the sequel is better than the original. And he goes, Empire Strikes Back. And Randy responds and he goes, doesn't count. It's a trilogy. Which,
but it's
that
like,
was never part of the argument. And also, Godfather's a trilogy.
That's what I was going to say. Were there any more Alien movies at that point?
I don't think there were at that point.
And there were no more Terminator movies at that point either.
Well, all those things came out around this time, though. Those those number threes. I think Alien 3 might have been out.
Yeah.
And then the thing he says after that is he goes, he says, it's a trilogy, doesn't count, and it was planned.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, and what's funny is I'm mad at an actor when I should be mad at Kevin Williamson because that was not planned.
Yeah, it was not planned. Each original Star Wars movie, someday we'll dive into it, like George Lucas on those first three was like, I don't know if we're ever going to be able to do this again.
The first one alone as they're even filming it, was just like, this is a disaster. This is going to be one of the worst movies ever made.
It does well. And then if you watch any stuff on Empire Strikes Back, the whole time George Lucas is like story-wise, he's planning to make a third one, but he keeps saying, if you see like on-set stuff, he's like, oh, this is going to fail. Nobody's going to see this movie, and I'm going to be like ostracized.
Yeah.
And then they make a third one. So that's crazy to say that. And also, if it is planned, that doesn't mean it's not a better sequel.
Yeah.
And we had to spend that much time on it, folks. You might be saying you guys are being nuts, but we have to because that's what our podcast is about.
Sequels.
So there's Jerry O'Connell. Gail shows up.
What?
We see Portia.
What?
We see Dewey.
Oh,
this is just like when all the characters are coming in.
They're like watching the press and everything. Yeah, so it's just like, are you going to come to our sorority party? And then they say, uh-huh, and then they walk away. But then Sydney meets up with Courtney Cox, and Courtney just wants... Courtney is with Cotton.
Yeah.
And is like, guys, we're all going to sit down and have an interview. It's
right,
gonna be so good for all of us, right? And Sydney is so mad.
Rightfully so.
And slaps Courtney Cox.
Yeah, so she's cold cocked her twice now.
Yeah, cold coxed her twice. Courtney Cox.
Oh!
And then
that was a good one.
So then Cotton is super pissed. And what's interesting is in the last movie, we thought that he could have just been a rapist murderer this whole time. And now we get to know him.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, he's an innocent man, but he's a scuzzball. Because now all he cares about is being famous. And I like that.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because
he doesn't want to get back. He doesn't want to carry on with his life. He wants to make as much money as he can.
He wants his 15 minutes of fame, he keeps saying.
And I think, it's like, this terrible thing happened to me. I should be able to make some money off of it.
Which, on the one hand, it's like, I mean, if that happened to me, I think I'd want the same thing. But
it's a very American idea, I think.
Yeah, but it is pretty wild that I would think that what they do in this, like if I was writing it, my inclination would probably be, I'm going to write this guy, I'm going to make him really creepy so that people think he's the killer, and then at the end, he's going to save him. And it'll be like, oh, I truly misjudged you even a second time.
But this makes more sense.
I think better.
If that's what they did, it actually it would be kind of poor writing.
Yeah.
This is
so
better.
Thanks for calling me a poor writer.
No, but this is better because for most of the movie, I'm just like, why is he even here though? Like, does he even live here? Because she went to college. So why?
Yeah, it's weird.
Let's say that he was fine and he's just like, I'm just trying to prove to you that I'm a good guy and you were wrong about me. And it's just like, no one would do that.
Uh-huh.
If someone was like a nice person and they were exonerated, they're just going to try and get back on with their life. This guy's like, I am tracking her down and I am making her give me my 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
And it's gross.
Yeah.
And that's why he's there, which is also fun because he just seems like another suspect.
Right.
In this whole thing.
Yeah.
I love it. So then Dewey shows up.
Because he's just worried that things might be happening again, kind of wants to keep an eye on Sydney.
And in talking about Dewey, not long after this scene,
I
just said, David Arquette duped me.
He duped me as well.
He's good. And we were just such dumbos
when we watched it last
episode.
Year, we watched all 3 of them, or all 4 of them, and I was just like, those movies are so good if only they had chosen a different actor. And this time, for both of them, I mean, the last movie, I was more cautious because I remembered what I felt. But both these movies, I'm like, he's doing a lot. He's being crazy. It's some intense choices, but I think it works.
It does, and this
it's
is
really
just,
boyish and charming.
So in this movie, he's a little older, he's a little wiser. He has like nerve damage, so he has a limp now from being injured in the last movie.
Uh-huh.
But he's trying to prove himself because in the last movie he was trying to prove himself.
Yeah.
And he's just continuing to do that because people still look at him as the simple cop. And especially so because Gail wrote about him in that way in her book.
Yeah.
And then, in the last movie it ends with them sharing that kiss. And it's like, oh, an unlikely romance.
Right.
And then they reunite in this movie and he hates her because she belittled him in this book.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I thought maybe you cared about me, but I'd remember that you care about no one kind of thing.
Pretty good.
And it's so good and I love it.
And I think their romance kindling itself toward the end of the movie, actually, like, it felt earned.
And if you've never seen this, newsflash, they do get together. Like, I mean, you know that by the end of this movie, but like in the series, they do, in ways, you know. And
I don't even remember.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah,
I like it.
they go to the sorority party, and they're all listening to Dave Matthews music.
Yes.
Dave Matthews Band, which just cracks me up because I don't think anyone at a college party would be like, let's listen to Dave Matthews.
I don't know. It's the 90s.
That's true. It is the 90s.
Isn't that like his prime?
I guess so, yeah.
I'm not a Dave head, so, but it does feel right to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, party is packed.
Yeah.
One funny thing, hopefully people enjoy these nitpicky moments. So, you know, this party's happening. Sydney shows up with her friend. Sydney takes off her coat, puts it on the back of a chair. And then scene happens where at the end of the scene, Derek says, grab your coat and we'll leave. Her coat is just on the back of a chair. This is a party of a ton of people. You are not putting your coat on the back of any chair. There is a designated closet or room for that because her coat would be gone at that point, taken by someone else.
Right. And it's a nice leather jacket.
It is.
Ev looks great in leather.
She does.
We discussed that.
Just a funny thing that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So at the sorority party, Portia and her friend are trying real hard to get Sydney in. She's the get for this sorority. Sydney doesn't care and just wants a good time.
She's not a sorority kind of girl.
No. So
meanwhile,
yes, at the other sorority,
really nice scene. What is the actress name again?
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
But also Cece.
She gets a phone call from, you know, the titular Scream. And, you know, the person's messaging with her and just the way the tension builds and her, like, I feel like she's making the right decisions, which makes it scary instead of, oh, you should have done this, this, and this. And the person's breaking into the house, chases her up the stairs. She gets chucked out a window after getting stabbed.
You got to talk more about how it's all drawn out, though. It's just
I was hoping
so
you could.
So she's talking to her friend, and she is the sober sister of the night. So she's the DD for anyone who needs it. That's why she's there alone. And then she gets this call from someone who I think she thinks is her boyfriend or something.
Yeah, Ted, of course.
It's the booty call because her friend says he only calls you when he's drunk.
Yeah.
So she starts hearing some weird noises. She checks outside. No one there. One of the sorority sisters is there, like shows up, grabs something, leaves, and says, make sure to turn on the alarm, which she does immediately. But while they're talking, in the background, you see Ghostface come in.
Yeah.
And hide in a closet. And it's just so fun because it's like, ooh, Ghostface is taking risks. He's getting in. And then as a viewer, you're screaming, no, because she sets the alarm. But what good is that going to do her now?
Right.
So
he's in there.
Yeah. So the guy calls her again. She realizes it's not the person she thinks he is, just like everyone else. And then she starts getting chased around. He's in the closet. Again, just still fun stuff. Like she's getting away from him. She's throwing things at him. Like he's not invincible.
Yeah.
She's able to run. She makes it up to what seems like the attic or something.
Yeah, like the crawl space.
Yeah, and he throws her out the window, like you said, and then stabs her and then throws her off the balcony, which is just pretty crazy. And
the movies are so gory that I was like, ooh, I hope they don't show her splat. And they didn't, which I was thankful for. I don't like when we see the splat.
I feel like a lot of movies, even though they're graphic, sometimes it's the falling that they don't show.
Yeah, I think reading whether I should watch Midsommar or not, I think there is an explicit splat in that movie.
Yeah.
Of like a man being thrown onto rocks.
Yeah.
From high above.
Is it just one person? I thought a couple people do that.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
So she gets thrown off, and what's funny is when she's thrown out the window, the alarm goes off.
Yeah, I love that touch. It's a good touch. Bless you.
Thanks. So she dead.
Yeah.
And police show up. Everyone clears out of the party, the other sorority house, because they find out what happened. Like, something's going on at Kappa Beta Zeta. And
I think it's Omega Beta Zeta.
Omega Beta Zeta.
Or Omega, I mean.
Whatever. So they go over to that house. But at this house, so she's about to leave with Derek.
This scene.
The phone's ringing, and she just gets that look on her face of like, what if?
Yeah, and the camera follows her to the phone after it was looking at Jerry O'Connell, who's outside. And then she answers the phone, and then the camera goes back. It's a one shot, and the door is closed now.
I think Ghostface slams the door.
Or yeah, he slams it, but it's all in one shot. And then it's like, oh no. And then Ghostface is chasing her.
Yeah.
Then Jerry O'Connell jumps in, but out of frame, like Nev doesn't see it.
Yep.
He gets cut, and he doesn't get any main arteries, nothing like that. So he's kind of cast into question. And he's a med student.
Yep.
I like that.
I know. It's good.
And I do love when she gets the call, there's just this look on her face where, afterward, when she sees Jerry and his cut arm, I think she's not even considering him as a suspect. She's just going, oh no, it's happening
this is because
again.
Of me.
I can't believe it's happening
I think
again.
she's suspecting him at that point.
You think so?
I think because of trauma. She is suspecting him whether or not she wants to.
Okay, yeah.
Because she can't not think about it at that point.
Yeah.
So what I also like about these movies, and especially the scene when she's being chased around the house by Ghostface, the places where they get chased around a lot are like big houses with a lot of corners and a lot of different rooms. And
I know.
So there's a lot of running through rooms, and at one point Ghostface peeling off to cut through a different room. And sometimes you get a couple seconds of nothing.
Yeah.
Of the character, especially later on with the Courtney Cox scene. That's why it's so chilling.
Yeah.
It's just so good. Such good suspense. Dewey also shows up and tries to find the guy when Derek tells him where he went. Doesn't find anyone. So then police are questioning everybody now because another student on campus has been murdered.
Yep.
And throughout this movie, Sydney is feeling that survivor's guilt like crazy. Like that is what she's going through. And she gets to points where it's like, this is because of me. It should have been me. She keeps saying things about how it should have been me, or like he could have been killed. And she's trying to isolate herself. So ever since this happened with Derek, from here on out, she's just keeps telling him, we got to take a break. You got to stop talking to me. It's in your best interest.
Yeah.
I love what they did character development wise for her. It's great. So what I also find interesting is when the police are interviewing Derek about it, a lot of the things that they're saying is, why would you run into the house?
Yep.
And he's saying to catch the person who was chasing her. And they're
suspicious of that.
Not only that though, it's like now we're in an era of you're not supposed to be the hero anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's what you were told. And I remember getting my first jobs, and what in training and orientation is saying, like, if people are stealing something or it's going to like rob you at your register, you give them to them. No one's the hero anymore.
Yeah.
And there's
only one hero, and his name's Spider-Man.
Okay. But that's just an interesting thing that people are now like, you get in trouble for trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for listening, everybody. Yep. I bet that joke has gotten old to our listeners.
In that scene as well, Mickey is talking to Sydney, and she is saying, like, you could have been killed, and Mickey is just giving her a shoulder to cry on, like, it's fine, everything's fine. We're so lucky to have you, and we're here for you.
Yeah. So
it's good.
Then Courtney Cox and Dewey start realizing that it's possibly how did I just pronounce that word?
I don't know.
It was like an air bubble, possibly. That there might be a copycat.
Yeah.
Because the people who have been killed all have one name in common with the murderers of the previous movie.
Victims of the last
Victims,
movie.
Yes. And I think Timothy gets picked up by the police. No. Cotton does later, but that's not here yet.
Yeah, we got a little ways.
There's the Top Gun scene, which we sort of already talked about, where he's earning his love.
And he gives her his letters.
Yeah. Then there's the scene from Stab that has Luke Wilson and Tori Spelling. And it's maybe my favorite cameo because Luke Wilson as Skeet Ulrich as Billy is just couldn't be funnier, I don't think.
Yeah.
And he is just really hamming it up.
It's
and the
very
hair
self-aware.
is crazy
His hair
bad.
looks so bad.
It is.
And it's a moment.
Amazing.
It's the same moment from the last movie where Sydney and Billy were having an intimate, private conversation at school that no one saw. If we're looking at it as a reality standpoint, yeah. Therefore, this would never be in the movie because no one knows this happened,
right?
Unless Sydney wrote the book,
and she didn't.
But Gail wrote the book, and Sydney didn't give her an interview. So it's just so funny that they I'm sure consciously chose that scene.
Yeah.
And Tori Spelling being in it in the last movie, they said, "Sid, who do you think's going to play you in the movie of this whole story?" And someone's like, I think you're totally a Meg Ryan. And then I think Sydney says, if I'm lucky, I'll get Tori Spelling. And that's who she got.
Yeah.
Very fun.
Very wild.
So Gail.
Oh, and remember he hits his head. Luke Wilson hits his head and goes, "Stupid," and then it cuts out a scene because it's one of those like, this next weekend Stab is coming out. Let's take a look at a clip. Yeah, like one of those shows.
But it's like on a morning talk show.
Yeah, which they used to do that all the time.
Never mind. I'm thinking of late night.
Yeah,
how
Jordan.
They do that sometimes. But so yeah, Dewey and Gail are teaming up. They are. I mean, it's the sexual attraction to each other. It's just unstoppable. They're going to work together.
One's a positive, one's a negative. They got to get together.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And during all of this, Gail's cameraman quits.
Yeah.
Or wants to quit because
like you said, killed. Like, brothers don't last in these types of movies.
Her last dude got
And yeah.
That's funny because he is now decides to read her book.
Yeah, and he's like, what the heck did I sign up for?
Like, he got good at it. And she's like, I fabricated that. He got his throat slashed in real life. And he's like, that doesn't make it better. Yeah. So is that the same scene where Randy's with them and they're talking?
So the next scene I have written down is when Randy and Dewey talk
at Baskin
about the
31
rules.
Robbins.
Yes. And they're like, who could be the killer? Now, this is just a great scene.
Yeah.
Super fun. Randy gives 3 rules because he's saying, this is a sequel. The person's trying to outdo the original. So, here's the rules that you got to have for a sequel. Number 1, the body count is higher, which I think is correct for this movie. Number 2, there's more blood and more gore. I think that's also correct for this movie. Mm-hmm. And then number 3, never, ever, ever, and then he gets cut off. And we don't know what he says.
Yeah.
But the teaser trailer for this movie has it. And the rule number 3 from Randy is, if you want your film to become a successful franchise, never, ever, under any circumstance, assume the killer is dead.
Oh.
So.
Nice.
That's what it is. The lack of a third role in the film's final cut was a deliberate in-joke by the crew, referencing the fact that it is impossible to ensure that a horror franchise will be successful.
Okay, PR. So then it's it's Dewey, Gail, and Randy.
Sure.
Talking on campus, and one of them gets a call.
Oh, yes. This is a great scene.
Ghostface, and they're all, the campus, there's just students everywhere.
And they're running around, like, trying to grab whoever's on a cell phone.
It's like kind of crazy that they did this kind of scene, to me. That they're just running up to people, ripping phones out of their hands, and like, it's so out in the open. I think it's crazy that they came up with this idea, and it's broad daylight.
It's a pretty, it almost feels more like you're, like this scene is more of like a Bourne, like, thriller scene than it is like the horror movie. And it's cool that they're tapping into that.
Yeah. So they all split up. Gail is with Dewey running up to people and ripping phones out of their hands. And then Randy is talking to the person. And the person starts talking about just what happened in their past in the last movie. And talks about Billy. And Randy gets out a very funny F you.
Yeah,
I think it was like, you could never have done it.
No, they say you can never be a leading man.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And it really offended him. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
So he gets close to Gail's van and gets pulled inside and killed.
And I was bummed because I could not remember if he died.
Yeah.
And he's like probably my favorite. And so it was a bummer that it's like, oh man, there's 2 movies without him.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm assuming there's 3 movies without him.
Yeah.
But he's great. And I even looked up the actor on Wikipedia, Jamie, and I looked for there was no controversy section on his Wikipedia.
As if like they killed him off for a reason.
No. I looked up the actor because I was like, he's so great in this, but I wonder what he's up to these days. And a lot of times when you click on actors, and he had no controversy section.
Maybe people just don't want him anymore. He's out. Sorry to say it. He's gone.
Well, I think he's still doing stuff, but I was just I was happy to know that he's not like a bad guy.
Mm-hmm. It is nice to know that.
It's nice to know there's somebody out there.
Yeah, for everyone.
So then we got the acting coach is talking, and this is like the opera scene. Now, the acting coach, he is in The Omen.
Okay.
I believe. It's The Omen or The Exorcist. He's in one of those two.
I bet it's The Omen.
I'm pretty sure it's The Omen. And I was watching, when I saw him when we were watching it last night, I was like, oh my gosh, I was watching John Carpenter's Body Bags.
Is he in that?
And he's in that.
Cool.
And he was great in that, in a very, very funny Twilight Zone-y episode about a guy trying to regrow his hair because he was losing his hair.
What does he take and what happens?
Well, so he's very vain about his hair, and his girlfriend's like, no, you look great. And he's trying to pose and all that stuff. And as someone who is balding, I was like yucking it up watching this. And then he goes to this company that has like a new treatment of hair loss. And it's run by this guy, the acting coach. And they give him the stuff, and the next day he has, this beautiful mound
luxurious
of hair.
locks.
Yeah. But then like the days after, he's having hair grow out of everywhere.
Nice.
And it turns out that the people who run the company are aliens.
Nice.
And they have little like hair aliens that they give to people to feed them.
So like the aliens are eating them?
It's like eating the people that get the hair put on them.
I effing love that.
It was very funny, and there was a lot of cool effects, and some of them were very, very gross. Like weird practical gross stuff.
Like, was it like eating their skin off of them at some point?
No, just like, hair coming out of someone's cheek and, just kind of some weird stuff. Body Bags, it's like for those that don't know, it's John Carpenter, and then one of the stories is directed by Tobe Hooper, who did Poltergeist. So there's 3 stories, and it's pretty fun if you like schlocky Twilight Zone.
Where did you watch it?
I watched it on Amazon. It was just like, you can watch it on Amazon. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
I had a heck of a time, and Mark Hamill is in the 3rd one, which is directed by Tobe Hooper. And, it's like he gets a new eye, but it's a killer's eye. And so you can guess where that goes.
You can cut this part out if you want.
What?
Was it Mark Hamill before he had the accident? Because I feel like I saw part of that, like a section of that, and he didn't look like he was in the accident.
No, it was after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he got in the accident in between New Hope and Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, but how many years is that? Like 1, 2?
No, I think A New Hope is 78, and Empire Strikes Back is 82.
Okay, so yeah, that's why I'm curious.
Yeah,
because I did think that there was a little bit of a gap between those 2 movies, and he looks so different.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
so it's always fascinating to me. I haven't seen him.
Well, that's
pre-accident outside of Star Wars, I think.
Yeah, probably not.
So I'm just interested.
And that's part of the reasoning behind, at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back, he gets attacked by the Wampa in the ice cave.
Okay.
So that's kind of like, at least I feel like I've read this, or at least it makes sense to me if I didn't read this. It's like he gets attacked pretty brutally, and then he gets out, and it's like, oh, he's scarred up now, like he was attacked by this creature.
Yeah.
That makes sense. We'd love to have you on the show, Mark.
Yeah, I would love to meet him.
He's just the best.
I would.
He would be. He'd be a top like 5 if you could choose, because I feel like he would just.
He's like one of my favorite people all time.
He's so good.
Yeah.
And his voice acting. I mean, he skips.
I know. And he's such a nice person.
Yeah.
From what you tell me on Twitter.
Yeah, he's great. So then we have the play scene, and in the play, she is getting attacked.
Sydney's
by
leading
people.
lady. We did not say that. She is the lead of this play.
Yeah, we did. I think
I liked when this part happens. I'm like, this seems like a cool play.
It did.
Bummer
Well,
that it's
yeah,
never gonna come.
I was like,
happen.
this is some intense production value.
The costumes were so cool.
Yeah.
So you told us about the story already.
Yeah.
But there's a point where she is like running away from all of these
People stabbing her.
people stabbing her, and she sees one of them is Ghostface.
Yeah.
And he is actually trying to stab her, but he's like toying with her.
Yeah.
And I think she's thinking like, am I imagining things now?
But then the person who was trying to do it, like she's screaming, and then it cuts back.
Oh, I think it was real.
You think so?
Yeah, because I saw someone run off.
Okay. Because I think the way that they edit, at least the last person who's like about to stab her, it cuts to that person and they take off their mask and they're like, what's going on?
I think if we rewatch that scene, I could point it out.
You could point out nothing to me.
I could point out
like
everything to
Michael Scott. I understand nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she's not doing well.
Yeah, she's having a tough time. And also, it's like, acting coach, you're cool. You're like British and you sound really interesting and you know your acting stuff. Don't put this girl through this play. Don't put her through a play where people are trying to stab her. Come on.
Yeah.
I don't care that you don't have an understudy.
But remember, I don't have an understudy. I'm desperate.
Yeah.
Guys got to eat.
And then we have Cotton in the library.
Okay, so Sydney's at the library trying to do some homework.
Yeah.
And someone is trying to message her on the computer.
She gets a DM.
And I am Micah.
Yes.
And it
Someone
says,
slid into those DMs.
Slid into the I am. So it says, she will die tonight. You will die tonight. The police can't save you. And since then, she's had 2 detectives with her the whole time. And then she freaks out, is trying to, and the detectives are trying to look for the other person in the library. And that's when she runs into Cotton.
And he's like, we have to do this interview. And he's being
with Diane Sawyer.
Yeah. He's grabbing her and not letting her leave. It's really aggressive.
Very creepy scene.
Yeah, and then they wind up arresting him.
Uh-huh.
And
it cuts right to the police station. So they're talking to him, and he's just so great because he's just like, does the word innocent mean nothing anymore? Because they suspect him, I mean, pretty much for what just happened, but I think he must know that when he walks around anywhere, people see, oh, that's the guy that was convicted for the rape and murder of that woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was let go because they found out it wasn't him. No, he did it.
Yeah.
It's like guilty once, guilty always kind of thing.
Yeah.
So just great that he has that baggage that he has to carry around with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just given all the detectives lip about it.
Yeah.
And outside, Sydney finds out, that's when she finds out Randy was killed.
Yeah.
And then that's also when she keeps saying that it should have been me things. And then they're told that she's going to be taken to a safe location, which I can only assume is the same safe house that Will Graham was taken to with his family. In Manhunter.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good movie. Let's watch Manhunter again.
Okay.
Okay, and the reporter, played by Laurie Metcalf, and Cox have some heated discussions back and forth. Movie. Yeah.
What's interesting about...
And that's when I remembered.
Yeah. What's interesting about Gale Weathers' character in this movie is she's still a reporter, but now she's also the story.
Yeah.
So there are these reporters wanting to ask her questions now.
Yeah, I love that.
And I think if you're watching for the first time, you think that is like personified in Laurie Metcalf's character alone until the twist happens. But before that, it's just
when I first watched it, I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, I'm sure I didn't either. But she's like, okay, she is the one that's wanting to ask her so many questions.
Yeah, and Laurie's just so good because she's just very, she seems like she does know what she's doing, but she also seems a little focused, but like aloof.
I think that's why the casting's good.
Oh yeah, because when it's revealed it's her, she's so like not that person. She was just acting like she's so good. I love her in this movie. Love her in everything I've ever seen her in.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Dewey stab. Okay. Dewey gets stabbed. Oh, the recording studio.
Okay, so Gail was given a lot of tapes that her cameraman before he quit had given her of like B-roll of people at the college and stuff.
Yeah.
And she thinks it stands to reason that the killer should be on these tapes. So her and Dewey find a room with a VCR to watch
in
them.
the film study like building.
Yeah, and it gets hot and heavy pretty fast. And but the hot and heavy turns ice cold pretty fast.
Yeah, because then they switch to video camera of them live right there.
Yes. And so they look up to the control room. Ghostface is up there.
Yeah.
He comes in, starts chasing him. Dewey falls down the stairs. That looks painful. And then Gail slides across the top of the counter, which was a good move.
Yeah, definitely a stunt double, but
like pretty cool. And she runs out of the room, running down the hall. All the doors are locked.
Yep.
And you're just feeling that dread. But you don't really hear pitter patter of feet behind you. She just got to get away. Finds an unlocked door. Dark room. I feel like a lot of this is a one shot. Or
yeah.
It's impressive. Yeah. It's impressive, Micah, and you need to understand it. So she gets into this room. It looks like a recording studio with a ton of walls.
They're like soundproof foam wall things, and the way she's navigating them, it's just she's one breath away from taking the wrong turn and getting caught.
Oh my gosh, it's just the suspense is killing me. So she makes it into another room, barricades the door, and then Ghostface is trying to break down the mirror or the window. That's when Dewey comes in, and Dewey sees her, but she's in a soundproof room, or he is. I don't know which way it works.
He is, but
and so she can't hear him.
Audio wise, this scene doesn't work, but I like it because it's very suspenseful. Because in the next scene, the Ghostface is hitting a window, and she can hear that he's hitting the window. But like just a second ago, when Dewey was hitting it, she couldn't hear anything.
But Ghostface thing happened first, just so you know.
No, but in after he stabs Dewey, he starts hitting like a different window in the same room, and she can hear like the bong of stuff hitting it.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter.
Ghostface gets to Dewey.
It's intense, so.
And there's nothing she can do but watch. And that is definitely the scene / part where my sister and I were like, let's take a break.
Oh.
Because it's scary.
Yeah.
And that helplessness feeling is so high.
Well, and I was thinking, I thought David Arquette was in all of these movies.
Yeah.
And then that happened, and I went, no,
is he dead again?
Maybe he comes back. Maybe he lives, but I mean, that looked like pretty final.
I know.
But of course he lives in this movie.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
And then
she makes it out of the room, and Cotton is there too, covered in blood.
Yeah.
And he says, no, I just found Dewey.
Yeah.
That's why I'm covered in blood. And she runs away, and he is like, this does not look good to me, or for me.
Yeah.
Then we cut to Sydney.
Yeah. Do we? I think we cut to Jerry O'Connell getting grabbed by his college friends for giving away his mega letters.
And they're
hazing him.
He becomes Icarus on the stage, next strapped to the sun. That's what I've always thought of. Since it's like Greek play, it's like maybe it's Icarus. It's probably not.
So they're hazing him, and that'll come into effect a little later.
Beer is involved.
Yeah, I just wrote beer soaked because they're throwing beer all over him.
Yes, beer soaked.
And then her roommate and Sydney are in a car with the detectives that are like her bodyguards, basically. And they're driving. And how do they crash the car again?
Well, No Face shows up at a stoplight.
No Face.
Ghostface shows up.
Ghostface, yeah.
At a stop sign. At a traffic.
Oh, and he like jumps on the car.
Yeah, well, he like breaks the window and like stabs the driver. I think he slits his throat.
Yeah.
And then
this is the most intense scene, I think.
I think so too. Well, I actually think that's the last one, but this one's pretty intense too. Throws the other guy out of the car and like roughs him up a little bit, but he actually doesn't stab him, from my memory. And then Ghostface takes control of the car, but the detective that's still alive jumps on the hood, and they're driving around, and it's, you said, fun day for the stunt guy.
Totally.
Yeah,
and then they crash, and they crash into this pole that's sticking out of a construction site, and it goes through the detective's eye into the car. And then Ghostface is knocked out. But this scene is just so intense.
Yeah.
Because Sydney and her friend are in the backseat of a police car. They can't unlock the car because it's a police car. So they have to pull back the grate, and then the only way to get out is over the lap of Ghostface, who is unconscious, and you're hoping that he doesn't wake up.
And definitely, I'm sure the first time I saw this, I felt this way, where they make it through. It's slow. You're just sitting on the edge of your seat.
It makes you, the viewer, kind of go...
Yeah, but you're probably screaming in your head like, why aren't you taking off his mask?
Yeah.
Which is what Sydney goes to first. Roommate says, no, we need to get out of here. And then they're starting to run away, and Sydney says, no, I have to know. And then you're probably like, yes, you do. We have to know too.
Yeah.
Goes back, Ghostface isn't there.
Yeah.
And then her roommate gets murdered.
Well, and it's funny, and I think it correlates with some of the themes they're bringing up in regards to Black people in horror movies, because every character that is Black in this movie, when there is trouble, they've been in horror movies. They know, so they're like, no, don't go back for the mask. We gotta leave.
Yeah.
All of them. I think that's like a pretty intentional theming in the movie, where it's like, no, we're smarter than this. We gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna die first.
Yeah.
Which is like, I just think that that's a smart and interesting touch on the movie.
Yeah.
It stinks that her friend gets killed though, like right away
I know,
after that.
I know.
Because she was being smart.
Right.
So, but anyway.
So, Sydney makes it back to the school and she goes to the auditorium.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't remember. I think she
neither.
gets a call or something.
Yeah, so she makes it there, and Derek is lowered down from the rafters because he's still pinned against the sun, and he's still alive, and she's trying to get him down.
Yep.
And someone yells, and she turns around, and it's none other than Mickey himself.
Yep. And his whole motive, I love this, is he goes, I got to make the sequel better. This is not even the movie. What just happened? The sequel to me is the legal part. I'm going to claim that the movies made me do a killing. It's never been done before. I'm breaking new ground.
Yeah.
And that's his whole thing. And he goes, the Christian Coalition will pay my legal fees.
It's so interesting. I love that it reminds me of like old timey kind of stuff, where it is like, I'm explaining to you everything and how it's worked the whole time. And him explaining it, it's like, that's really interesting. That doesn't make sense though. It doesn't. That would not work.
No.
And I don't think you're supposed to believe him. Like he's delusional. Obviously, he's killing people for this whole thing. Like something's wrong with you.
Well, and it helps that Laurie Metcalf shoots him, and she's like, I can't believe he thought that legal thing was gonna do anything.
I know, that was great. So yeah, he admits that he wasn't working alone. Oh, actually, sorry. Before that, he kills Derek.
Yes.
And
which wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't know how they. It was crazy. Like, they shoot him in the chest and it like explodes out.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they must have had like a fake body, and
I think it was a prosthetic on top of him.
But maybe like Jerry O'Connell's like head is just sticking out of like a fake body or something like that can explode like that.
It's a prosthetic on his body.
Yeah.
That
either way
was what is it called? A squib?
Squib. Yeah. It was. I was like, oh,
I know, and like, he's taunting him before he shoots him. Like, Sydney, it's him. Of course it is. Of course it's your boyfriend.
He was the partner. Yeah.
And so he dies, and then Gale shows up, and he's like, "Who could be number 2? The second person that was killing everyone." Gale shows up. Right behind her is Laurie Metcalf, and Laurie Metcalf shoots Gale, and she falls into the pit, the orchestra pit.
Yep.
And
it's funny and like ironic and so Scream that the finale of this is happening on a stage, a literal stage.
I didn't think about that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's cool. So Laurie Metcalf is Mrs. Loomis, which is Billy's mom.
Yeah. Good motivation.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, though, it's none of them are going to be as good as the first movie, which is kind of the whole funny point about this movie. Because it's like at the end of the last movie, you find out Billy kind of did have a motive. It's because Sydney's mom slept with his dad, and that's why his parents got a divorce.
Yeah.
So it's like his mom left them, and so that's kind of this like grudge he's held against her. So then you find out like, oh, okay, so Mrs. Loomis also, it's all about revenge, which is what she says.
Yeah.
Just like not as interesting to me.
Sure.
And it's sometimes, and I don't even think the twist is too big or anything, but it's just kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it works for me.
I think it's fun. It's just in comparison to the last movie, not as good.
Yeah.
But she shoots Timothy or Mickey.
Yeah. And then there's a big showdown.
Yeah.
And it eventually gets to where Cotton has a gun pulled on Mrs. Loomis, who has a gun pulled on Sydney. And she's kind of like, if I took care of her right now, just let me kill her. You can get off scot-free, and you can know that this person who hurt you for a year and had you in prison for a year is dead. And you just don't even have to worry about it. And talk about your 15 minutes of fame. You'll be on the evening news tonight. And then basically he says, Sydney, if I don't kill you, will you do the Diane Sawyer thing? And she says, yeah. And so then he shoots the mom.
Yeah.
And
that's that.
That's that. Of course, Timothy gets up and they have to shoot him again.
Yeah, and Gail's not dead.
Yeah.
She's fine. And then they're all getting out of the...
Real quick. But Billy Loomis's mom is lying there, and then Sydney just shoots her like 2 or 3 times. Or no, she just shoots her in the head because she's like, I'm not risking it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot they were like unloading on Timothy, and then yeah.
So then they make it out of the building. Press is all there. Police is there. Press is there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dewey's not dead, and Gail's cameraman comes back, and she's about to do a story. Sees that Dewey is not dead and being wheeled out, and she chooses Dewey over the scoop.
She does,
and it's so sweet. And then everyone's swarming Sydney and Cotton for what's going on. And that's when Sydney says it was all him. He saved everybody.
Yep.
And you can see he's just like, thank you. And then especially he's like, guys, there's a time and a place to get my side of the story and a price. Here's my card. It's so funny.
It's like, what a bad dude.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, that's the movie, right?
Yeah.
We did it in so much, well, I guess not so much quicker, but still about a half hour shorter than Scream 1.
Wow.
So what are you going to say about that, folks? Huh? Next week, we're going to talk about Scream 3. Can you believe it? Jordan?
Yeah, I can.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm excited.
What do we want to end off this episode with?
How hungry I am and how we just need to stop recording so I can go eat.